We are here for a very, very special occasion and for a very special friend who's written a book, Work and Workplace at the Edge of Intelligence. And the person who wrote is Shashi. Shashi is here with us to talk the book, and along giving me company for this book review is Meera, who's flown down all the way from Delhi, and Manish. To get started on this book, without me introducing, I'm going to let all these three eminent persons talk about themselves. The first, Shashi.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Shashidhar Sharma, and I am working in the real estate fraternity for last 3 decades plus, and with various avatars as a country head for Hummer Miller, regional manager for Hayward, model furniture manufacturing firms. And then I worked with Cushman Wakefield for 5 years doing India occupier services in Bangalore. But more importantly, apart from this day job I have recently joined 3.5 years back, Advanced Workplace Associate, which really gave me the idea to write this book, Work and Workplace at the Edge of Intelligence. But beyond all this day job, my passion is about creating awareness about climate change and global warming. And now, after ChatGPT, AI has come in picture, which is totally kind of precipitated the climate change, which I was thinking is going to happen in 2040 by 10 years. So that is another thing which actually pushed me to write this book. And apart from that, I do write books. I started with the spiritual fiction, Kuhase Ki Geet and Songs of the Mist are the books I started writing about. And then now I'm in the fraternity, and wonderful friend Sanjeev and Manish. And thank you, Meera, for coming all the way from Delhi to be here and give us some interesting conversation, which I'm looking forward to.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Meera, and I'd like to introduce myself as a communication coach, where I help professionals find the best way to make strong relationships with their key stakeholders and be able to navigate that environment with key conversations. Another hat that I wear is that I partner with a health retreat, because there's a health evangelist, well-being evangelist inside me, a health retreat called Mood Forest. And the purpose is that how can we have individuals have a full bio reset so that their best well-being, their cognitive, their physical load, their ability to implement themselves at their fullest potential is served. That's what I do. Manish.
Thank you so much. Sanjeev, first of all, thank you so much for having me at this beautiful office. And I must say, while we were having lunch at the cafeteria, I found it very interesting. It was not like the mundane coffee house, cafeteria that you see. It was bubbling with people and the choice of food that was, but shows a lot about how the company thinks about its employees. But my name is Manish Raj. I have been working in the industry for over 27 plus years now, and have worn the hat of hotel operations guy, then moved into the hotel sales, and then moved into corporate travel. And then I moved into co-founding a travel company as well. And then I also was part of a mobility SaaS company, which took me to different parts of the world to see how people travel or commute for work. And then was also spent about a couple of years into electric mobility space. And now I'm in a company which is into food tech, and managing cafeterias. So I say my journey, people's life journeys happen full circle. I'm having food circle. So it's coming around. But the interesting part that I have seen in my entire journey is wherever I was working and whatever I was doing, I was working with people. People, not during the work hour, they were looking for travel solutions, they were looking at a stay or a nice meal, or they were looking at commuting to work. In every aspect, there were people emotions, people well-being, health, everything was coming in picture. And when I was reading this book, when Shashi I always kept asking you, what do you mean by at the edge of intelligence? That's one line which makes it very different. But my summation of this book was Well, it's very, you do, as you always do, complicated English words, but what I felt is it's very human. It touches human aspect very beautifully, because somewhere, and the emphasis on balancing everything, right? Like you have written in the word that the earth is not an independent body, right? It's tightly coupled with each other, with everything. So I think whatever we are doing in this room or outside is all meant to happen, and that's how it's happening. It's just that how do we give it a shape and how do we work it out? I'm very excited about this discussion. First time I'm doing it, Shashi. You keep pushing me to do something like this, but with Sanjeev, I'm excited about it.
Okay, so let me talk about myself. So I've had two very distant careers. I spent the first 14 years in the Indian Army and then the corporate world. So I left the army because I had a medical condition. I had some problem with my ears, and which meant that I would no longer be able to be a real soldier. I was a combat soldier, infantry guy, served in mountain, served in CI ops. So, and then to say that now I will only have a desk job, so I said I would leave. I was very fortunate to have a wife who's working, so there's no challenge in putting bread on the table. And so that's what helped me to move. And then I came in and had some struggle. I got my first job with Reuters, spent 2 years, moved to Northern, which where I had my greatest and biggest learning. I spent 14 years, great organization, and I've been here for nearly 6 years in my current role. And so I've seen the real estate industry growing, and one learning from it, right? When I initially started, office was all chairs and desk, right? And then came more open office, collaborative office. You need an office where people can think, people can put together ideas, find solutions. And then you said that then office is something where you spend more time than you spend at home today, right? And that evolved for me. So, for example, one of the first lead certified, I mean, Shashi's pure passion on environment, right? The first gold lead office in Bangalore was something that I built in my previous organization in 2009. And somebody told me, your office should be lead, an architect. So I asked him, what is lead? He looked at me and said, you don't know. I said, I don't know. So I said, okay, then I said, I'll Google and find out, right? So then, right? So I think my learning started on the environment part from there. And also, we were designing our offices in my previous role. So we had a ramp, right? And somebody said, can somebody go up the ramp? I said, yeah, you can push it up. He said, it can be self-propelled. So that changed my thinking that you would design offices for everyone, right? Not just for people who are able-bodied, even others. And that's something over the years I've learned and evolved. Now the new one is the change in technology, the AI coming in, and that's where, Shashi, your book is so useful. I find so many things, something interesting here, and I'm going to use my specs to read and ask you some. So how does the office look for the future, right? And how does the office look from in a new AI world? So I find some answers here, Shashi. So we're going to start with asking you a few questions on your book. So what made you write this book?
Very interesting question. I always wanted somebody to ask me this question. Frankly speaking, I have been in the fraternity for almost 3 decades now, and whenever I go and meet the industry leader like Sanjeev, and he will check with me, okay, so you are also an author. So what you have written? And I ended up, talking about spiritual fiction, which I read. That is the Songs of the Mist I wrote, which was a bestseller in 2016. #1 actually, amazing. And it did not gel with the kind of things I was doing at that point of time as a real estate professional, that I'm writing spiritual fiction. So I said, no, I have to change this. And I have been in the field for almost so many years. There was always one question: how do you make the offices much better, much more productive, and how the offices help corporate real estate or corporate offices help in their employees to become better? And that question was always on my mind. And when I started digging deeper into this, I realized it is not about design. It is also not about the, what a kind of paraphernalia you gave, the false ceiling, the furniture, and sit to stand furniture, all those kind of things. When you dig deeper, you realize it is all about a knowledge worker and a human being is going to be in that office, and how you make that human being more comfortable in trying to produce something or trying to do something. And when it disconnected from the design part, because every time you come to my office, it's a beautiful office, you have a cafeteria, 5-course meals, and those kind of things. It was never about that. And when I realized that there is very deep undercurrent which needs to be brought out, that the architects and designers don't just focus on the design beauty part of it. Beautification is not going to help you to become more productive. And that is the where my journey started. More importantly, as an advanced workplace associate, as a country head, we had always been thinking that this new era of open office culture is not working. 2012 we realized this. It is not working. It is actually disruptive to doing a deep work. And then we started doing the kind of research. We have in Amsterdam we have our scientific community which takes those inputs and figure it out. And when we started talking about open office culture is not working, everybody was not okay to listen to this. And then we started going deeper, and then we did research, and that research is resulted into this book, which basically talks about how you're going to make your knowledge worker within the organization more productive. So that is why I wrote the book.
So Shashi, on that one that you just said, I'll dig a bit more deeper. Earlier on, offices were enclosed spaces. You had a 6, 7, 8 feet high wall, and you sat a chair and a desk for yourself, and that's where people said. People said, no, that's not the way to work. Bring it all down, 4 feet level. You should see your fellow colleague across, sideways. So we came down to those places where it is more easy to communicate. And the whole thinking is you can communicate better, then you can work more efficiently, you can partner well and innovate, right? Now what you're saying is that's not working.
Yes.
Right? So what should we do then? So all that we have learned, you now telling us what you're doing doesn't work.
And just to add to that, there was this time when people used to have cabins, right?
Yeah.
And then the new design, I would say
Knocked
the
off.
early 2010 and
Yeah.
later,
Right.
the cabins were to be removed
Correct.
because you need to have more transparency, you need to have interaction.
Right.
All that you are now questioning back.
Correct.
I think that's what you are asking.
Yeah, no,
also.
very good. On just to add on to it before you respond, earlier on people had managers, executive had large offices with a big glass. So you knocked that all down, brought them back into the center of the office, opened the office, larger office, more open area, visible sunlight coming into the office, and the whole thinking is that will help people to make people more productive, right? Everything that you've written in the book is totally contrary, telling us we are all going down a wrong path.
Can I walk through a little picture that comes alive right now? This is
So
my
all
early...
three of you are ganging up against me and
No,
putting
we
the
are
whole
no, no.
perspective.
Not at all. In fact, what I might say might actually feed into your answer.
Thank you very much.
With the whole shift in organizations from a closed cubicle to now like an open space cubicle, this was my early days in career, and I was at Johnson & Johnson. And it was a small office setup of just 50 people because the team had just been constructed over a year and we came together. So maximum 50, and I'm saying that not all 50 were in the office at the same time because people were traveling, so we had an occupancy of 35. Now in that group of 35, we had one of our senior managers always keep getting up in the middle and says, everybody, small office, small voice. That man would get up at least 3-4 times through the day to just remind us, I'm trying to concentrate, could everybody small office, small voice. And I can just imagine the amount of distraction that I as a young employee didn't think much about. But as a senior professional who had so much to turn around in limited time, it was really bunking on him. So yes.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Okay, so let me trace the whole journey of the history of office. The first office ever made has roots in India. East India Company made in 1700 the first office along with the Royal Navy people, and they were the people first started. And from there, when you have 3 floors of office, the clerks and everybody in this thing, because from East India, from Calcutta, the whole documents, what the East India Company is doing in India, the whole document has to go by ship to the shores of London, and then it will be downloaded. And these people who are working there, first time they created the shift basis, because by the time the shift has to come back, all this document has to be noted down and is brought back to India. So that is the time it started, and the shift culture started from there. Now, then this Ford came, then industry level production line kind of thing started happening. Then the manufacturers like modular furniture manufacturers like Hammer Miller, Steelcase, and all these people came. They gave you cubicle forms. When you go into the office, you'll find 5 feet height, 5x5 cockpit workstations, and you see the floor is filled with the cubicle forms. Then the open office culture happened. The reason why we were removed from the anchoring part of the cubicle office, because Wi-Fi, internet and Bluetooth happened, and you got onto the laptops, right? So you were freed from that arrest or cell of your own 5x5 workstation, cockpit workstation, and then now you're free to work from anywhere. So that is where we started with the open office culture. Open office culture was also premised on the wrong thought process. They were trying to democratize the knowledge worker with the senior leaders and hierarchy. They were saying that we are all teamed together and we are sitting just like you. There's no corner office concept or managers came in and all that. So open door policy came into picture, and they gave that just to say that we are with you, we are team. And that was the wrong premise. In that sense, our mind, our brain does not work like that. Anything, we are hardwired to listen to anything, whether you understand that language or not, whether it's clear or not. We will definitely go and listen to that particular noise because of our evolution. We were always afraid of how to survive. So is that sound is going to attack me or do something? That is how we get distracted. Microsoft's recent paper has come. Microsoft Office Trends, they have released 275 disturbances happens in a day. In 1 hour, you get disturbed, interrupted by 11 times, which basically means, and there's a study already done, that if you are deep in your work and you have put your thoughts together, you are deep in that depth. And if you listen to somebody or any sound to somewhere around you, or even if somebody is walking from that end towards you, not even coming to you and talking to you, it will bring you out of that depth. Now, to go back to that depth, there is a study, 23 minutes it will take. So you are in a constant pressure of breaking your cycle of, your depth and your focus, continuous process. You are basically not working. It's just like walking. Walking is nothing but you are trying to break your fall. That is what walking is all about, and that's how it happens. So that is where we came that this is not working, and there has been many studies. But even today, why people are doing, and probably it is my assumption, because apart from the architects and the knowledge workers, it was also cost effective. And that is how it is still going on. And probably it will change, it may not change, but the reason the book is there.
Then how do you do focus work?
I just want to add to this question before you put that across, because when you said that when the open office were coming up, and you said it was on a wrong premise it started, right? But I think we also cannot overlook the fact that around that point of time, the generation at that point in time which was working was used to a certain pattern. We're trying to break that pattern. And while we are trying to break that pattern and make it more democratized, what was also happening was the advent of the smartphones and the internet becoming faster, cheaper, readily available, which was not before. If you look at 2010 and before, that was not happening. Internet was expensive, mobile phone was not so smart, our distractions were less. I mean, phone itself became a distraction. But then after that, when you were in an open office and people started using the mobile phones on the floor also, That's where I think this whole open office also went, because the attention span became lesser and lesser, and where now Sanjeev is coming with a focus point. Please continue with that question.
I will answer to you, Manish, but anyway, let me hear Sanjeev and then I will probably put these two things together.
No, that's what I'm. My question was very simple. How do you, from all the things that you said, including the study that you just quoted, how do you do focus work in an environment like this?
I'll come to that, but let me answer Manish. Manish, the mobile phones and other things happened 2005 onwards, right? But open office culture was 30 years before. It started before. So this mobile phone culture is another problem which I'll discuss further. But the open office happened because of democratizing. Basically, the idea from the top down was they're all our team, we're all together. So let's,
hierarchy.
yeah, hierarchy, kill the hierarchy. That is how it happened. Now, coming to your question, Sanjeev, how do you do the focus work? So, I have a full theory written in the book about this particular aspect, but I will briefly talk about that. Carl Jung in 1930s and 35, he has spoken about our brain works on 4 primary functions and 6 secondary functions. And our brain works, the primary function I'll talk about here is intuition, empathy, intelligence, and physicality, right? So now all these 4, your brain is like a car with 4 cylinders. But the open office culture was designed for only one aspect, one engine. So we are running an open office culture with 1 cylinder, which is intelligence. And the reason why it was being done, because it is running on intelligence, that you cannot actually quantify empathy. How do you quantify empathy? How do you quantify intuition? So the focus was that, okay, let's design this whole floor plate based on the intelligence, how many forms they're able to fill. So there is a matrix are there, how many things you have done. So that was the only reason. Now what I'm saying is that the offices has to be designed on your 4 cylinders of the brain rather than 1 cylinder, right? So that your mental level, you are at your A game. And that design has to happen. You need to have all the aspects of a brain to be filled up with that kind of work, right? Now, if you are working only on the intelligence, so basically you are running your car with the 1 cylinder or probably on the 2nd gear, the whole hog, right? So you will burn out, and this has started happening. People started getting burned out because they have to work this particular thing. They didn't have time to breathe. They didn't have time to reflect. They didn't have time to internalize things what they're learning. How do you assimilate whatever the knowledge you are getting and bring it out? So for that you need a space for your intuition or empathy to get into picture. How do you do the teamwork? See, there is a very, very powerful concept of team intelligence. I'm not saying collaboration. There's a difference between team intelligence and the collaboration. Collaboration people can do. And team intelligence, it has been proven by research that when you work with the team, it has got 3 different aspects to it. Eye-to-eye contact has to happen. And that is the reason people used to, in the tribal times and in our evolution, we used to gather together in a circle and see each other. Singing is absolutely important thing for all of you to connect. And when these kind of things happen, what happens that the total collective brain or the IQ of the whole team becomes bigger than the total, the team. So team intelligence is not some of the people's intelligence, it is beyond. And that is where it's coming. So that is how you have to do. Now I will come to your question, how do you design for this? So for intuition, how do you design? I have created 4 zones in this biomes, I am calling it biomes, for intelligence, for intuition, for empathy. Have you done, Meera, scuba diving?
No.
Okay, you have done? So when you do the scuba diving, you realize that you are totally alone with yourself.
Yes.
And that is the time your other things come out. When you don't have the noise all around you of all the inputs, and I will give you another data point here. Our brain takes 11 million bits of information every second. 11 million.
Okay.
So all the information what I'm having right now, 11 million. If my brain starts processing all the 11 million per second, it is like I will be, it will be a total blackout. You lose everything. So how much it does? 40 bits per second. 11 million, 40 bits. 40 bits, I'm not talking about 40, 100 bits. I'm not talking 40,000 bits. 40 bits. if you have to, the brain has to assimilate this particular information overload. And if I'll put you in the perspective, one high definition movie, if my brain has to take everything, you know how much time it would take for my brain to take this one movie of 1.5 hours or 90 minutes? Guess how many seconds you need for this to process all the 11 million bits of a movie. Per second 11 million, and we are doing only 40 bits. 51 years it will take for you to digest one digital movie, a high definition movie. So our brain works on that. So we have only time for 40 bits. And that is where you need, when you do the scuba diving, your 40 bits are yours, because every other information senses is removed from you. And that is how you do the intuition part of it, because the brain is working at its full A game. So that is one part. And for intelligence, you have you have an old forest kind of a scenario. And for empathy, you need rainforest. So many things are happening with you that you feel, energized. And that is how, so this details is there in the book. I will not go into details. Did that answer your question?
It did. It just made me more worried than what I,
Yeah,
that I
that's
should
too much.
be.
It's like I am not able to focus now.
Right. Well,
11
while-
million bits.
while he's speaking about this conversation of 40 bits, I realized that it's quite how our system is built. It's not a limitation. I'd like to say that if we understand the science, then we identify these bits as currency. And we are aware of it, that moment by moment, from room to room, from conversation to conversation, context to context, I am utilizing these bits, sometimes in complete unawareness. And the more we are not aware of how much we are losing this, we aren't able to capitalize, commercialize, just at the minimum, leverage our real potential. If we understand the science, we'll be more guarded of our time, our attention, our resources. I think we haven't created a conversation enough about the potential and the danger of letting this resource go waste. Yeah.
So on that, right, with all that you've said, what is an habit a 22-year-old should have to have a more impactful, to be impactful at work,
Okay.
or maybe in life,
Sorry?
or in this environment? How does a 22-year-old
Or
is
the work or the life?
impactful at work or life? Yeah.
So you have to save yourself for this 40 bits per second. You have to save this. And how do you do that? By trying to actively give yourself time. Don't try to get distracted. So if you see, Sanjeev, if I ask you, when is the time you really do the work? I'm 100% sure answer you can give me later. Most of the CEOs and CFOs and the thought leaders, they work in the morning. Why? Because there's no distraction. And they will come early 1 hour, 2 hours before and finish the deep jobs because there's no interruption. So that is how people work, because they have to find time to really do the deep work. And that is how most of the people do. And in fact, when I talk about the open office culture, and I give this example, basically, most of the CEOs and CFOs and CXOs, what they do, in the open office culture, they will hog a conference room. They will sit there. Nobody bother them, because that's what they want. And this is what the primary example of why the open office is not working. So, but if you have to really work at your four-cylinder level, at your mental A game, you need to first find time for yourself. Find time, uninterrupted time for yourself. And that is where the things start. And then you also need to give your brain all the 4 cylinders and exercise to work. You need a space. So that's why I say, if I have to give you a kind of advice, you keep one sovereign hour for yourself. You remove every other, interruptions, mobile phone and all these things should be in the other room. Give that 1 hour for yourself, for you to do the deep work. The second part, which is I'm very big proponent now, do the long study. 30 minutes of Instagram Reels knowledge is not going to go deep to head. 1 minute or Reels and all, that knowledge is not going to go. You read, and when you start reading something, maybe my book, and my first line of the book is, read
This
this
one.
book
Read
slowly.
this one.
Read this book slowly. The reason is that the moment you start reading slowly, that is the time you imbibe the whole process. You start thinking deeper. You are getting confused by the things what I've written, and it will resolve in that book itself. So finish that book so that it resolves for you. So start reading, and that's the biggest exercise one can do. And the final thing, start empathizing. It is a very, very powerful, trick to become a much better person. We have our brain, we have a mirror neurons. It will always mirror. If you empathize, you will get good people to come to you. And that is what it happens. So this is the advice I could give to the leadership.
But isn't it, the thing that you're saying is something in all our childhood probably would have been told this. I remember because my father was a professor in engineering college and we used to live in a college campus. We were always told, get up in the morning, study, then you will understand better. Your learning will be better in the early morning. It's silent. Your brain is not heavy. You're fresh. And we used to do that. And probably the ones who were learning or studying at that point in time are today as the CXOs of company, and probably they continued that habit also maybe.
Because it's beneficial.
And empathy was something again which we had a lot as in that era. I would say the world has changed between the two alphabets, generation X and generation Gen Z right now. So between X and Z, a lot has changed, right? When we are all from the X, and probably your baby boomer, maybe. Are you?
I'm not going to say in the camera, but
But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of things that were done in the past have somewhere disappeared. Today, we seek intelligence from people who are working with us, but we don't really look from empathy perspective. We look at more from what is it that you bring it on the table? What is it that you bring in because of the corporate capitalistic kind of a need today that we have.
this is an industrial era, legacy, that we are always metered and productivity by the kind of work you finish, the form you finished, doing. It is never talked about how you are inspiring people within your own team. That you can't measure. If a person who's, a B-level performer, you have inspired because of your empathy and because of your team bonding, that is not measured. Who's measuring that? But that guy is down from B level, it is because of the super performer. And that empathy is working there. The trust factor, what you brought onto him, is working there. So all these things work.
Isn't now attention itself has become like a very limited resource?
40 bits.
I think the point of
40
this
bits.
conversation.
Exactly,
the
that is
point.
the, and I
So
keep.
you write in your book the word called right to think,
Yes.
right? Right to think. So elaborate on that.
And I'm very happy that you brought this out, right to think. In your organization, on whenever you're working, do you get time to think in the organization? When there's so many things are happening, 275 interruptions are going to ping you, and then you have to come out of that again. 23 minutes you'll have to go back. You have been deprived of right to think. You don't think. You only managing the breaking of your interruptions and breaking of your.
On that, I'll add something. When I was still in the army, so I served with a 3-star general who had outside his office a small lawn. So every day he would spend 15-20 minutes just walking up and down. Nobody touched him there. It was his time. I mean, his direction to his staff was, if the earth falls, then call me. Otherwise, you don't call me. Basically, right? It's his time, right? And I remember telling that you need it. He used to tell us, what is your thinking time?
So
Right?
that is
And
the-
I'm trying to connect.
Absolutely,
What-
that
what-
is his right to think. He has told you, this is my time to think. Don't disturb me, right? And that is where
I don't see that today in my working environment. I'm my day starts with a call. I'm taking a call when I'm driving. I'm taking a call when I'm in the office, and when I'm on a call, I'm messaging someone, right? And in the call, then you suddenly say, okay, send off one mail. So when you're on a call with someone, you see 5 mails coming in. The same gentleman may be on the same Teams call, right? So we're doing multiple things. So
Sanjeev, there is a research on this. 49% of the work what you do in office is not for anything else but administrative work, emails, responding to phone. You basically don't work for 49% of time. And this right to think, it has come from there, because if you don't get time to think, you cannot innovate. You cannot do the real hard stuff where you can take the corporate or to your organization to different level. That is where your 3-star journal is asking you to give him right to think. That's why he's telling you, don't disturb me. And when, I've just finished writing the how to flourish in the age of AI, 80 practices, and I'm telling the young generation, you have to give yourself time even if it is boring work. Don't do anything. You just watch the window. Nothing you have to do. Give your time, because our brain also works on 2 different networks. One is total positive network, which is TPN, which is basically when you are doing things, typing a mail or writing a response to somebody. That is a TPN, total positive network. And there is a DMN, default mode network. Default mode network is the time when you do the creative thinking, intuitive thinking, when you are actually creating, innovating or something, and that only happens when there is nothing. So if you are watching a window without any changes, that is the time your brain shuts down your TPN and gets into the DMN mode, and that is how you get Eureka moments, the light bulb moments. It comes from there. You can't get the Eureka moment when you are, writing an email or getting disturbed or watching Instagram doom scrolling you're doing. Can't do that.
So you think you got to cut yourself from work and say,
Sovereign time. That is what I'm saying.
My own time.
Give yourself a sovereign time, my time.
But do you give that every day of the week?
It has to become
over a
I
weekend?
like
this.
that.
It's like a yoga, no?
Yeah.
You do every day. Otherwise, your muscles will go back.
Right.
No, so that is how you have to do.
I'd love to put in a bit here.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm aware of this. So at Mood Forest, the retreat that I function alongside, the conversation that brews is, you have the right to health.
Yes.
Health is not a privilege. We treat it like that in our country to a great extent. But it's not a privilege. It is a right to health. So you actively do something about it. Now, when we pick up the same thing and we say right to think, I'd like to state this analogy. My early days in career, I joined a nice corporate, and then this is at Johnson & Johnson. And we get an opportunity to get 5 days off, particularly choosing a hotel location in some part of the world. For 2 years in that organization, I did not know I have that right. The day I learned it, I said, let me use it. Now, that is an easier right to capture. But I realized that as a working force, we do not know that we have the right to take secluded time, to do deep thinking, and to actually see this picture come alive. I'm aware of an entrepreneur who runs an organization of about 200 people, and they have a lovely building setup. The entrepreneur himself refused to take the corner office because it has glass walls on 3 sides. He says, no, this is going to be a dedicated room for my folks. And he initially reserved it for the elite within the org, where it passed down to others, as that's a space that's been created literally like a sanctuary. It's glass walls facing outside, and there are desks created, and it's treated like a library or a temple where you don't utter a word. You step in with the awareness that you don't even have to look at somebody or greet somebody or create any kind of contact, but that's your time for yourself. And people were actively asked to show accountability, that how much are you using that space? And when you do, post that 1 hour. We're not asking for productivity. We're asking for what was possible for you post that 1 hour of deep work.
Oh.
And I found that splendid.
You give me a brilliant idea, because we have this so-called meditation room where we will go and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But we never measured what people do when they come out. Do they become more productive? Yeah.
Ask not about the productivity.
Yeah, not about the
Ask,
productivity.
how much creative thinking.
Oh,
how
creative,
much thinking
whatever,
they
yeah.
have.
What got creative for you?
Yeah, right.
What became possible for you post that 1 hour?
But then, we have this, and sir, you have been designing offices also. You have seen so many offices that have come up. What I like to contradict about the office space also is the fact that we think that every employee does the same thing. So every employee should get the same kind of workplace. We are not going to differentiate. But when we actually break it down and understand, a sales guy or a marketing guy or a developer or anybody from a tech side or HR, they all have different kind of work which results into different outcomes out of that. And so you can't feed the same thing to everybody or give the same space to work around it. This thought process, while I don't see that really coming out in various offices. It's very transactional, I see sometimes.
You're spot on. You're spot on. And that is the democratization that has happened. I need the same, what he gets, I get. He can do different work. So you could be doing a transaction work, right? You could be doing a work which got a lot of heads down work.
Or deep strategy.
Yeah?
Deep strategy.
Right?
Yes.
Or you could be, you need a work where you need 4 people around the table and brainstorm something. So a lot of modern offices do factor in, but I think a lot of time this gets overshadowed by the democratization, right? Oh, Mira's team's got A, B, and C. Why is Shashi's team getting both A, B, and C? Right? But what they won't say is she needs A, B, and C. Shashi's team doesn't need, but it's the democratization in the organization which happens to what you say.
And my book goes beyond this, Sanjeev. What I'm saying that not the team. You need all your 4 cylinders firing at its A game. So you should be having all the 4 modes of working, which can be, intuition, which can be, intelligence, which can be empathy. So you don't need to have this team kind of a setup.
No, but your book also talks about nature, right? How do you bring nature into the workplace, right? That itself is very powerful and profound, I feel, because teamwork doesn't mean 4 people sitting. I can sit with that plant and talk and just look at it and just water it every day, see it growing. A kind of relationship that you build, which happens. I don't know. I want to tell you earlier about this movie that I had seen on Netflix, and it was in South Africa. They call it kelp forest. Yeah. You know what kelp forest? Kelp forest is something the forest which forms under the ocean. In the ocean, right?
That is the most environmental friendly stuff.
So the forest is under the ocean.
Under the ocean.
Okay.
It's called kelp forest. So
literally something like
if you do scuba diving and all, you'll see those kind of forests inside.
Interesting.
So in South Africa, in Cape Town, it's Atlantic Ocean, so it's very cold, right? So the forest really grows inside. So this movie is about a relationship between this man and an octopus, and it's called My Best Friend Octopus kind of thing. The guy goes inside, he builds a relationship with that octopus. The octopus starts responding to that guy, and it's amazing to see how nature really starts working on you and how things can really change. So you have a toxic environment in your office, your plants will die. So how do we expect human to really live there? And I think that's something I felt in your book also, that what I felt is the balance that it brings in. Like the focus is on balancing nature, balancing human mind, and balancing self.
So what you're talking about, Manish, it is a very important, a very, very deep thing which we have got from our own Vedic culture. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra talks about 2 things. One is Purush and the other is Prakriti. So the man and the nature, they are working together in tandem. We are on this planet and not alone. We are with the earth. We call it our Matrabhumi, right? So this has to work, and there is already a research. In a day, if you only see out of your window a green tree or green foliage, your productivity increases by 45 minutes just by watching. So we are attuned by evolution itself to get inspired by these kind of things.
Okay, now that I live in an urban jungle, like all 4 of us, right? And sea is 250 miles from this, the nearest sea, right? So, and all that we discussed this for. Let's look and you also talked about AI. Let's look at how does it impact people, and then I'll come on to Mira. You work in the healthcare. Come to you on the before that. For all that is happening, how does it have an impact on people who work in office environment?
What
The lack of focus. You're not able to think enough. You're not thinking enough. You're not firing on all your cylinders. You only got 42-bit. Given all the distraction that happens, the scrolling that you do, right? And then this whole AI thing that has come in. In this whole environment, how does one work?
it is not working. It's quite simple, it's not working. So I keep talking about this all the time. What is an organization? If you remove all the furniture, you remove the false ceiling and remove the carpet, furniture, the glass, everything. Organization at the end of the day, it is brains coming together to work individually or with other brains in the organization to provide a service or product. That's what it is. So if the brain is working, then you have to take care of the brain. We have already taken care of the physical well-being of an employee. We have done everything. Your office, Sanjeev, we just went around and see the office. Everything is there. So physically, you don't have to do anything. But how do you make that brain more productive and work in tandem? A, individual brain. B, the connected brains. And C, how this environment is adding value to your brain or removing the cognitive load. So this has to come now. We have to go beyond physical well-being. We have to go to the cognitive well-being of a person. And we are all diverse. My sensitivity towards the light or towards the noise is different than yours. So we have to work on this and make sure that we are providing the right atmosphere for the brain to be its A game every day. And that has to be done actively. Nobody is thinking about it. And this book is all about that. How do you make the brain to become more productive in the environment with the team or individually? So that is how it is going to work. Did that answer your question?
I think you were also referring to the impact. And I realized the impact is not just on productivity, but it is on the person's well-being.
Yes.
Where you mentioned that the cognitive load gets so intense. But when we're speaking about well-being, we're looking at not just what's happening in the physical body, where sedentary, not movement could have an impact, which we leave it for the employees to figure. You have gym membership, or we'll have a gym in office, but are you using it? There's no accountability on it. But there are other aspects where we're looking at, like he said, the intelligence. Beyond intelligence, are we looking at the intuition and the empathy? And these words are left for some days of the year to be talked about. But I think Shashi does really dial up your attention on how unmissable this is to when you're looking for a mass impact at what people are working on, where you might have missed that what they're working on was producing a level of productivity. But now you have built them to be such machines because they're accessing their intuition, they're accessing their empathy. The sustainability of the work that you're doing is now going to a whole next level. That I see come out so beautifully in the book.
Absolutely, Meera, you actually touched a very nice point. The world is changing, ChatGPT happened, and the AI is happening. The world has changed. Now, think about a person, and it's going to be next 6 months to 2 years down the line, that Manish Raj will be working with 2 or 3 humans and hundreds of agentic AIs. Think about his brain when it has to, find out what kind of hallucination one of the agentic AI is doing and what kind of things these 3 people are doing. And that time your brain's value is far beyond the physical, work what you're doing. So now, if you make a difference in the productivity of that brain by minute percentage alone, it will go to the next level. And that is what is going to happen. And that is why this book is so important for people to read, to understand the leadership, that we now start thinking in terms of cognitive workplace strategy, not the workplace strategy alone. And that is where it's going. So the world, believe me, has changed. It's completely changed, and it's going to be much, much more, in stark context with your physical activity and your, cognitive activity. This is going to happen. And when you start working with the agentic AIs, different level. That is where it's going.
But while we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about agentic AI, and we are talking about the fear that people will lose jobs and all. Is that really going to happen? And as individuals, are we not supposed to adapt to that changes and then align with what is required? And then I think more than anybody else, kicking us out. I mean, AI. It is somebody who's better than me in terms of knowledge is going to kick me out. So I better be prepared for that and work around it then.
No. So a lot of people think like this, ki, AI will take my job. As I see, it is not a fear. People should not fear this agentic AI or the artificial intelligence. They are nowhere near you. They cannot empathize. They cannot do the kind of things as a human being we do. They can do the mechanistic job. Now it is our, way at looking at the artificial intelligence, how we are going to use that tool, just like mobile phone. No, we have given all the phone numbers to the mobile phone. We don't remember any number now. What is the need to do this, right? To remember all the numbers. Apart from my wife, I don't even remember my son's phone number, what it is. It is there. So I have
They're on the same
my
page.
memory. Everybody will be there. Now this AI is there. The problem is what fear people are having. They're trying to compete with the AI at their game. That guy does an amazing job of calculation, coding and everything. So as a human being, you are trying to come down to the artificial intelligence level and trying to compete with that. Not going to work. They're much faster than you in doing mechanistic job. You can never win. What they cannot do is your human empathy level, human things, what
Judgment,
the human
wisdom.
can do. So don't do this, that I will compete with AI. It should not be fear. It should be, I will use that AI as a mobile phone
Good. So now
and
on
do things
that,
what I do better.
On that, I'm going to jump to you. Right? You are a very successful healthcare career. Then you moved on from there, right? So the question for you is, what is exactly what Shashi calls in his book, radical adulthood, for someone anxious with AI disruption, what Shashi just highlighted in their career, right? So what is one presence or communication skill that would make them, which AI can't replace?
So when I look at my career, and I'm sure a lot of you might resonate because there are these milestones where you hit where the world shakes up for you and you realize you don't quite need to be here or you need to relocate or move elsewhere into context. And something similar happened to me, not just once, twice, but I got laid off about 5 years into my career. And I'm talking about a time where it seemed like a big blow to my ego. At that point, it was a major part of my identity to be that who I was. And then a few years later, not exactly laid off, but a circumstance happened where you were just compelled to step off. And when he speaks of the word radical adulthood, to me what sits beautifully together is the word agency. Are you somebody who has agency? And when we say agency, that means, do you have the ability to take complete responsibility for whatever is happening around you? And let's just break up the word responsibility. Respectfully, I'd like to call out Sadhguru's book called Inner Engineering. He breaks out this concept called response. Ability is what makes responsibility. So usually when we use it in parlance of speaking, we say, something goofs up and we're like, who's responsible for this? So it's usually like, who's to blame? When we look at this word in a slightly different context and coming from radical adulthood or agency is, whatever the circumstance, no matter what gets thrown at me, I have agency or I think radically that I will respond to it no matter what. I will find the right resources, I'll find the right route, the paths to be able to manage this to its fullest best. If we as adults can reach there when it comes to our cognitive health, our ability to have good physical potential, and our ability to contribute, that radical adulthood, that level of responsibility is what will drive our path forward.
Wow, I like this. This is something, my biggest takeaway, Shashi, today.
And I must tell Meera that the way you explained responsibility, I think you should start writing books.
You've told me that before.
I told you before.
Yeah.
I think you got enough
It's
material.
getting manifested. It's manifested, yes.
Thank you.
But Veera, I also would now, and if I can just ask one question here, because we are talking about workplace, we're talking about edge of intelligence, we're talking about radical thinking. Life has become so quick service for us, right? Everything is QSR, right? Today, everything is delivered quickly. I want information, I have a mobile phone, I want food, I have an app to order, I get everything on my snap of my finger, right? But then what has also happened is that my ability to take failure at face value has not been taught to me, or has not been there, or I don't. So, he hasn't yet used the word, and I'm very surprised how come he has not used this word. His favorite term is anxious generation, right? So
What?
he hasn't spoken
Anxious?
about anxious generation.
Anxious
Don't let me
generation.
go
Talking
there.
about
I'm
anxious
telling you.
generation, right? So the anxious generation becomes anxious because they have anxiety problem, and the anxiety problem is happening because they have a fear of failure,
That's right.
right?
One of the
and
reasons.
are missing out, FOMO that we call
FOMO,
it now.
FOMO too, yes.
Everything leading towards failure, right? Which affects our intelligence, which affects our empathy, which makes us we start questioning our own self, right? Questioning our own self is right, but when you start questioning on the wrong side of the of yourself, that's where the problem starts, right? Like, you have heard that हम हमेशा सुनते हैं in India would say कि उम्र गुजर गई गालिब ये जानने में कि धूल चेहरे पे थी और आईना मलते रह गए. Right? So we didn't know it was all innate, but we kept blaming everybody externally and kept blaming the situations and circumstances around. Responsibility was not there. So, what is your take on that? Why are we? Because and where I'm coming from is one of the institutions, sir, I had invited me to address their PG passing away students, right? And they said, can you speak to them, address the crowd? There were some about 300 students there. So I was thinking, it's easy to address the corporate fraternity because we have been living with them, we're working with them. I was like, what am I supposed to go and talk to the students now? Like the youngster, Gen Z, Gen Alpha kind of student, what are you going to talk to them? So then I asked the convener, the student body guy who was coordinating, I said, what do you want me to talk about? Can you tell me what should I talk? Very interestingly, he said, so can you talk about failure? Because everybody who comes on the stage talks about, I did this, I did that, and I was successful, I was this, but nobody has spoken about failure. And can you speak about failure? And I had a spark on my face. I failed so many times that I can give lectures on failure. Like I failed always. Like,
And how powerfully vulnerable of you to actually bring those stories out.
yeah, and I actually had a free flow talk of 40-45 minutes, and I had the highest LinkedIn follower that day happened from the students. The institution that we have today doesn't prepare us to face the failure, right? So, and that some over the time reflects into the working culture also as we move forward. Books like this actually shows you mirror. It shows you where we stand today, and where did what went wrong, or what can be corrected at this point in time. But how do we address that now?
Right. This does get discussed in our coaching realms when we're talking to professionals, and we realize that we're so enmeshed with the desire of that outcome that we miss the opportunity to say what else would be possible. And while it's difficult for us to imagine what else would be possible, our discouragement from the failure starts to define us. And the reason it starts to define us, if I may just say, imagine this is one block, that's a failure block, and it just comes and fits on you beautifully. Why? Because you actually allowed it that space. Now let's give you a different conversation. How did the space get created, or how did this fit in? Because we did not allow the real identity to be held strong. Now, if I may give option to people, what is your real identity? Identify your skill. There's something you're really good at. If I followed a camera behind you, you'd be seen doing that skill more and more. So there's a skill. Please create it as a strong part of your identity. Then there's a subject matter expertise you have, and that's undeniably, okay, you're not a master, but you're a decent expert. Certain years of experience give you that badge to say, been there, done that experience. So there's a skill, there's a subject, and there's a character. You could be responsible, you could be bold, you could be somebody who's resilient, you could have somebody grit. That's a part of your character. So when your identity has these three knobs standing out, your skill, subject, character so strongly, dare failure come and attach itself. It could sit, have a conversation. And failure therefore becomes an opportunity to take feedback from how you were moving. The failure comes and interacts with, hey, where was the skill not up to it? Hey, where was the subject not up to it? Where do we need to add on more information? Where do we need to gather more resources? So can the failure be treated as a feedback so that the identity can leverage that feedback and move forward? We still go back to saying, oh my God, I carry this label of a failure. Sometimes there's like a little privilege of being an underdog. Yes, you can take leverage of that. But it's because we don't look at failure as feedback. We look at failure as end of all. And if we shifted that conversation, it would shift things.
Sanjeev, have you ever failed? Don't look like one.
Why?
No, because
Okay, so let me tell you, multiple times when you say failure means things don't go up. For example, all my life, the only thing I wanted was join the army. I was very clear. I had no other ambitions in life. And I was very clear that I wanted to see two things. I wanted to enjoy college. I wanted to see what college looked like. So I never wanted to go to an NDA, right? So I went to college. I loved that experience. The moment I finished college, I sat, wrote my exam, joined the gave my CDS, and ended up in the army. And that's the only thing I had, right? So I like to read, lost some of it off late, and then I joined the army.
So all successes.
No
failure here.
No. So I come back soldier. I'm just building a prelude, right? And then when I had some 11, 12 years of service, in the army you do your annual medical, and it came up that your ears are you have a problem with your ears, right? Which means that when you're on radio communication, it will be a challenge. And that means you can do no longer combat soldier, you got to get a desk job, right? I didn't know what to do because the only thing I wanted, I'd worked very hard, I'd done whatever I need to do, and now army is no longer a career. It's the only career I thought of. I've been married, me and my wife stayed away. My wife, she was in corporate, so you get posted to got posted in places where there's nobody. I mean, she used to work for Stanchart those days. I mean, there is Stanchart. Apart from your 4 metros, maybe nowadays 2 more towns without, right? You go to a place like Jodhpur, you go to a place like Umroi Cant. Have you heard of the place? Umroi Cant is in Meghalaya, right? Right? So tell me, you open a Stanchart, right? So, and we had courted and married. It's not that it's an arranged marriage, and so she left with no choice, right? We knew all this, and then suddenly he says, "You're over," right? And then I said, "Okay." I thought about it for nearly a year, and then I quit, right? Once I resigned, it takes a few months here. I said, "What will I do next?" Right? So I came out, and it was not difficult. Initially, I was looking around. I didn't prepare myself. Maybe I should have gone and given an exam, go and appear for GMAT, go and get myself an MBA degree or something. I did none of that. I said, I started looking around, and then the whole pressure, right? My roots are in Kerala, right? So my relatives, though they never told me in front of my eyes, but I could hear. They would say in Malayalam, which would roughly translate this, he left such a good government job and now he's sitting at home. That is one part. The second part, living off his wife. So you can imagine my ego getting right.
I know.
So I didn't get it. And so those are my failures. And then in all that, I said, I need to get a job, something I should get, right? My wife told me, forget all this, go study. Go get yourself another professional degree. That will. I said, no, I want to work. So I rocked somewhere, and through some contact, I called up a security agency and said, hire me. He refused to hire me. Right? So life has not been rosy.
Yeah, it's not like a bed of roses.
Yeah. So getting that medical thing saying that your career is over, you can still serve and you can still to leaving and hunting for a job, right? And and getting rejected by a security agency is a good rejection. And I thought I was a soldier.
Yeah, it's a big blow. It's a big blow.
Yeah,
But it's very interesting that the pain of rejection at that point in time becomes a reason for laughter later. So we're actually laughing at it.
Lessons learned, right?
Lesson learned. And we realized, if that had happened, where would my life would have been at that? Thankfully, it did happen, so I am here today. So things can actually
So when did you fail?
many times.
Okay.
Well,
He was
I was
invited as a speaker to talk about
so many times. I was told कि पढ़ेगा नहीं तो फिर पान का दुकान चलाएगा या भैंस चलाएगा. मुझे लगता है कि what I feel today is the ones who are running the pan shop are earning better than us.
so true.
Entrepreneurs. But yeah, I think it's part of learning. I think and we had a good time to learn.
So we'll talk about individual failures and then we will try and conclude. So your biggest failure?
My failure. So many failures. I have started 3 businesses and failed miserably in that. And I started one of the best, India's 3rd largest mobile phone surveillance. And I was at the top of it and doing a lot of surveillance work for Narcotics Control Bureau and police and a lot of things I was doing. Again failed that because of various reasons. So failure is, if you don't fail, you don't become the man you are. And that's what I believe. And failures are the opportunities for you to step up and become more resilient. And you become, बोलते ना कि हिंदी में कि जब तक आप सोने को पिघलाएंगे नहीं तब तक वो शुद्ध नहीं होता है. So that is how it is. Failures has brought me down many times on my knees. But do you want to get up from there is the question, and that is what the learning I have had. Good?
So true. So true. Oh yeah, like I said, lost 2 jobs. My dad's a doctor gynecologist in the forces. So it was a dream to join not the forces particularly, but become a doctor, and that didn't happen. So when talking to the biological sciences, I think there have been sufficient failures, whether in school, college, or even my workspace. I remember I had, it was nearly a year in the organization. I was working very closely with doctors. So there's a joke in the pharma industry that cardiologists think they are gods and oncologists think they are gods of gods. So what I'm working with is, shall we say, a very inflated sense of ego. And no offense to anybody, all of us in good humor. But I got off a call from an oncologist where I told him, you enrolled a patient incorrectly. We were into clinical research. He said, you enrolled a patient incorrectly. We'll have to take them off. And he's like, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me? Am I the oncologist or you? So when they speak to you like that, you realize you start to put a little label called failure in your head, like you do not have the ability to manage your stakeholder. And many such conversations can diminish our ability to get up, resurrect, and say, I still have my subject, I still have my skill, I still know what it means to have ethics and morals into what we do. So several failures, even in the business that I do, immense number, and quite a few learnings. I think a book could be written on the learnings of what we gather from these failures. Yeah.
So we'll go towards concluding this podcast. So for 3 of us, and then final statement from you, Shashi, okay? What is one thing that you take away from this book?
I think I would say your book touches upon climate change, impact of it. It touches upon AI, and it touches upon anxious generation, right? So I would look at it positively from here. I would say that climate change is actually going to make us, or making us, if you look at, more responsible. We are actually now doing things let's say we are planting a tree. We may not be there to see that tree grown up, but somebody will be using that tree. AI is making us more adaptable, I think, because we have to adapt it and we have to live. Otherwise, you fall off, right? And with the anxious generation or anxiety coming in, and let's remove the generation and the anxiety part, I think we have suddenly started caring about ourselves. We have started looking at our well-being. We have started thinking about our well-being. probably pandemic added to that also. But today, whether young or old, all of us are really looking at it. I think that this book teaches me about maintaining a balance of the wisdom that we have from an experience that we carry for the next generation to learn from, or willing to learn from, or we are able to give it to them. For them, it is all about, I feel, you don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
Not everything you should know. There are things that you learn in the course of your life. So I think this book can actually take you to all sorts of direction that I can think of. But that's how I look at it, as this book has made me, uh, question the journey that I was having and go back to the olden days to see what the way we were used to live in our older houses were more aligned to the way we actually look at today, right? So it takes you back. It takes you back to prepare you for the future.
What about you, Mira? What takeaway?
A key takeaway from this book that I have is that while we're working with AI, your product that you produce using AI will only be as good as the nervous system that's working it. And if we can take super responsibility of this nervous system. So there's already something that I do in my coaching practice where the professionals are given or put on an assignment that they're required to put in 3 days a week, dedicated 30 minutes of just pen on paper. So why? Because we're inviting them to sit in silence. We're inviting them to jot down the slightest thought that comes. They need to be able to empty this. They need to be able to process the new. But till on a regular basis, they're not dumping it in a very conscious manner. 30 minutes on paper, whatever the heaviest thing on your mind, is letting the nervous system reset and letting the nervous system function to its full capacity. So one key takeaway, preserve your nervous system because you are the next generation that's going to be managing the AI. Yeah.
It's very interesting. This morning I was like talking to my daughter, and I love talking to her because she's in 12th standard, and we were driving back I was dropping her to school, and we were talking about, the topic you just said about, and she has taken biology and science, right? I was thinking, Ananya, we should talk to Meera.
How lovely. Thank you.
And understand what she is doing, because
Thank you.
I don't want you to break your head. If I am not able to clear need, then what else? There are too many things that you can do. Maybe you should talk to the right stakeholders who probably can actually take you. You don't necessarily need to crack what you think you can crack. You can crack, please go ahead and do that. But that should not make you feel that, I failed or I could not. So I was just telling her today in the morning, and
Right.
now when you're talking about it.
True. Thank
yeah.
you.
Three of us have something in common. I mean, you studied bio, your daughter studying, my son is studying. So we all seem to have something very good.
Meera, you are in demand.
Oh, good. So, now, okay. So I think your book throws up a lot of stuff, lack of focus, right? A lot of things that for me, my time, I mean, get your head down to do some thinking work, right? And how the office we are building is not working, right? So I get paid for that. So that's a big one. Right?
You made a good office also. You need to figure out
Right?
what's going there.
How to, right. So I think, Shashi, I think the big one is how unfocused we are, how we are all over, right? And I think that is something big one for me. Now, before we come to, go to ask you, we all said two questions for you. One advice you would give to anyone, from everything that is written in the book, one thing that everyone should do after reading this book of yours, and you can talk about what you'll write next.
I will answer the second question first. This book is basically a problem statement for the corporates. And I'm trying to provide the solution for the enterprise level. What you can do at the enterprise level. So this book talks about that. My next book, I have already written one which has been published now on Kindle. It's available in Amazon. How to flourish in the age of AI, 80 practices. Because the moment I gave this book to my publisher in January, and I had done a lot of research, I realized that I'm not doing justice to the young generation which is coming into the employment, and I have no solution given to them that this is a problem, and has provided a solution for corporates and enterprise level. But what about them who are going to get into the employment, crowd, and they don't find it? So that guilt feeling was too much into me, and I started writing. How can I solve that problem? So that is the reason this book come. But ultimately, there is a much beyond. There is something called each one of us, whatever stage of life we are in, we have this challenge that how do we, the world is changing. It is a tectonic shift, mind you, and I'm 100% sure about this. Three things: artificial intelligence technology, climate change, and this new generation which is going to work with you. Five generations are already there in your corporate environment and they have a different way of working. All these three things have come together, and I'm calling it, thanks to AI, I'm calling it second cognitive revolution. They all come. It is not only going to affect the entry level jobs, it is going to affect each one of you, each one of us. And we need to be ready for this change. Otherwise, we'll start getting depressed. We'll start feeling challenges and anxiety will happen. So the next book which I'm writing, which will probably, again, it is the series, what I'm calling now Edge of Intelligence series. So this is the first book, second book already done. The third book, which actually is for all of us to get to know where we are going to come. So from panic, which is going to get created, to power. How do you empower yourself? That is the third book in the Edge of Intelligence series. Now coming to your point, what people should take from this book. My personal, if you have read this book, and almost all of you have read this book, there are three very powerful things which I personally feel that it is there in this book. And I gave this book to ChatGPT and to try to figure out whether there is any plagiarism is there or not, whether this, so I wanted to check. There are a lot of people. This book cannot be written on ChatGPT or any other place because it has, 2 years of research. It is the foundation of it is 9 workshops, global survey, my own personal interaction with people like Sanjeev, thought leaders, what they're thinking, how they're thinking.
You
All
made us do all those exercises. You made us do all those exercises.
You were there.
Yeah.
So Sanjeev and Manish, you were there. So many people have interacted. And then this has come. And plus, of course, from Advanced Workplace Associate, we are doing a lot of work with various our clients who are quite top of the line corporates. So all this has come and then it has written. But very interesting thing, 3 things which I would like people to take from this. First is, I will just briefly explain what is AI. A lot of people have heard about AI and what it can do. So I will go back to that. There's a chapter called Move 37 in this book. So, Dennis Havas's Google DeepMind, they created something called AlphaGo as an artificial intelligence machine, which was trained for the game called Go. Go is 100 times more complex than chess, what you play. So they created and they trained this AlphaGo on millions and millions of moves what has been there in the history of the game. And they challenged the Lee Sedol in 2016 or so to play with this AlphaGo. You remember the Deep Blue, which Kasparov lost to it, and then he came up with various things, which is again there in the book. When AlphaGo was playing with the Lee Sedol in the game, and that particular artificial intelligence focused only on game Go, moved they are calling it Move 37, very popular. You can Google it, find out. That move is so interesting because it was not trained on that. The AI machine, the computer, didn't have a clue. It created something on its own. And that is the time the whole world changed. AI is something now which can create creativity, you call it, or innovation, whatever you call it. It created a move. When it moved at 37, Lee Sedol left the room in very, very disturbed way. And all the critics said, this is not possible, this is wrong room. And that was the time when the whole world changed. The AI went out of the map and created something which was not there in its feed or in its background and created. So
that actually was not a wrong move. That actually was not a wrong move. It was a
This was absolutely amazing move, and it was very creative. Even though ultimately, if you read further, you will get to know that least at all, even won that game, actually moves 76 or something. So anyway, so that is one thing. So what I'm trying to say here is that AI is there to play with you, there to be with you, there to do with you. So there is a one particular thing what I'm calling, and which is the as the genesis from Kasparov's move when he joined human being with AI to work together, and now it has never lost either a human being or AI, and that is what I'm calling it centaur full-time employee, and which I'm saying is 30% is you and 70% AI. Now that is not ours. Please understand there's a difference here. So, okay, I will do 30% of the job, 70% job I will give it to AI. No. 30% of the job what you're doing is you as a human. Rest of the 100% of mechanist job they should be doing. And that is how you use this as a tool. And that is the center CFTE, center full-time employee you have to. So that one you should take, not become the partner of AI, become the owner of AI. And that is where you go. So that is one thing they have to take. Second very important thing I want all the readers to take from this particular book. We are the longest surviving Sanskriti in the world. Of course, Chinese Sanskriti is there, 3,000 years and all. But we have not documented, so nobody goes there. So I don't want to get into that, controversy here. But we survived. Our Vedic culture survived for 10,000 years. And 500 of years of Mughal Sashan, 200 years of British Raj could not finish that culture. Roman Empire went, Incas went, but we are still here despite all these things, all these anti things what was happening to us. They were trying to suppress the culture, which did not get. The reason why it did not get, and that's one of the interesting things there in the book in a very short form. I didn't want it to become kind of Vedic culture proponent, but why did we survive? We survived because we were from the very beginning. It has come into our, genes, that our culture is based on Shruti and Smriti. We are always, we remember Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata by heart. And that is where the whole mind works. Mind has got a superpower, Sanjeev, is that we are the best in terms of pattern recognition. We are best at synaptic connection. And when you exercise your brain by remembering, by chanting mantra is nothing but listening to it. That time our mind fires up all the synaptic connection, and that is what I want people to do. We survived because of Shruti and Smriti, and this book, I keep talking about it. Now we have to get out of this doom scrolling, 30 seconds of knowledge or 1 minute of knowledge. We have to start getting to read and write, and that is going to be viral. That is the second thing. And the third and final thing, as you said, Meera, we need to stop people exploiting us, algorithms exploiting us. There is a chapter called Refuse to be Harvested. I always sign my books with the Refuse to be Harvested. Save that 40 bits a second moment. And that is where all these engineers, they've designed the mobile phone, designed the Instagram and all to capture that 40 bits per second. And if you let it go, you will not be able to work. We are destroying our critical thinking because what we have done, we have externalized our memory to the external world, the cloud. If you don't have things in your mind, how you are going to do the pattern recognition? How you are going to have a longer conversation? Because you don't have anything. Anything I say, if you have to Google, you can't have a discussion. So save that 40 bits a second for yourself, sovereign time you have to have.
So read this book. And we've had a fantastic conversation. Meera, thank you so much for flying in from Delhi for this. Manish, thank you for joining. And Shashi, thanks for writing this book. Look forward to your next book, and we'll keep talking.